This episode is brought to you by CoolStuffInc.com, the #1 seller of games and gaming accessories. And GatheringMagic.com, the #1 resource for Magic the Gathering news and articles.
Hi, I'm Steven, and this is my Damia Sage of Stone Commander deck. Okay, this is Damia Sage of Stone. She is an absolute beast. She's one of the scariest commanders you're out there to see. I got lots of commander decks. It's my favorite format there is, but this is my high-flying S-Class deck. This is what I pull out when I want to take down a whole pod, when I really want to win at an event, or this is just my most competitive kind of legacy-style EDH. So Damia Sage of Stone kicks it off. I'm real spiky. I like the black action. I like her colors. She draws you 7 cards during your draw step and you skip it. So during your upkeep, and you skip your draw step. That's pretty much what she's in here for. This deck tries to go off without her. It's pretty much a massive combo deck. But Damia just is there as redundancy. She keeps refilling your hand over and over. With 1 or 2 turns Damia out, you're pretty good going to lock it up. So that's Damia. Into the lands, there's Command Tower. There's one out there, Reflecting Pool, Polluted Delta. Fetches are important here. I really want to get some lands in my graveyard. This deck uses all of its resources, tries to maximize them, so it's important to get these nice graveyard lands like Verdant Catacombs and just Evolving Wilds even. And then some dual lands, Underground Sea, Bayou, Creeping Tar Pit. This is the best, only mana I'm running. It's the best wake-up mana I think there is because it's unblockable at little 3/2. Really helps take out problem planeswalkers is the biggest thing. You can also finish people off, I guess. You can beat people, but mainly it's in there to hit planeswalkers when you need them to die. Overgrown Tomb, some of the Shocklands, Breeding Pool, Flooded Grove. There's Lotus Vale. Lotus Vale comes into play. You sacrifice 2 untapped lands and it taps for 3 mana of any color. So kind of a risky land, but with all the graveyard redundancy I got, I'm pretty safe enough to play it. It's really great having these lands that can tap for more than 1 mana. They're parts of the combos that are built into the deck, so Lotus Vale is an important one. And then all the dual Karu lands that give you more than 1 mana. Rot Farm, Dimir Aqueducts, and Simic Growth Chamber. These are also very important for the strategy of the deck. There's Urborg to Yawgmoth, goes great with Cabal Coffers. And then some of the utility lands, we've got Bojuka Bog. I have ways of searching out lands at instant speed, so being able to take care of someone's graveyard just for free tacked onto a land, this is very important, stopping other decks from comboing out. When you're playing the highest level stuff, you really got to watch other people's graveyards, so very important land, don't overlook Bojuka Bog. Tree of Tales, it's the only artifact land I run. There's a Trinket Mage in there, so sometimes it's nice to get the green mana with him. And it helps turn on 1 Metalcraft, and it's just kind of nice to have it in there for artifacts. Halimar Depths, let you look up some lands on top. Cephalid Coliseum, it's very quick to get threshold with this deck. You have 7 in your yard, no problem. So Cephalid Coliseum is really good at drawing cards and cycling through, filtering for the stuff you're actually going to need. With its threshold ability, you can pay 1 blue, sack it, draw 3 cards, and discard 3 cards. So this is a great land to use again and again later in the game to get to where you need to go to. Tolaria West, you always want to be transmuting this thing. Transmute for 3, and you can go search up anything that costs 0. You're usually going to get a good land, a good piece of a land to kind of fill up your land combos, or you can just go get whatever cheap artifact or other 0-cost spell. There's a couple of them. Lonely Sandbar, got the cycling lands, Tranquil Thicket, Barren Moor. Important to have those graveyard lands, especially the cycle ones. And then some more utility lands, we got Thawing Glaciers. This is one of my all-time favorite EDH cards, I think. Just because you're just never going to lose tempo. You're always going to have something to do. And I have ways of untapping it, I got ways of abusing it, so this is a great card in here. Thespian Stage copies all those multiple lands, copies Cabal Coffers, copies whatever's out there that's good. Buried Ruin, this will get you any artifact back to your hand. So lots of good things in the yard. Deserted Temple, you can reactivate any other land. It's kind of like an own one-shot clone for the turn. But Cabal Coffers, Lotus Vale, that's the things you're going to be looking for with Deserted Temple. Then there's Volrath Stronghold. Again, Graveyard as a resource is very strong in Commander, so Volrath Stronghold kind of gives you that inevitability. When you got an Eternal Witness and a Stronghold both in action, you just pretty much have so many options available to you that this is important to that recursion. There's only so many recursion elements, and it's important you have to keep at least one of them to keep your graveyard back in check, so you can access it. Alchemist's Refuge, so you can play a blue and a green and give everything flash till end of turn. So this lets you drop Damia during someone else's end step, that way you can draw the 7 with her. This lets you go off on instant speed. This is just a great land. You don't have to use it, but it's great when you're playing against those other control players. High Market, part of a combo piece in here. You can sack a creature to gain a life. So I'll get into that a little later, but it's just good to have a sack outlet tacked onto a land. Very important to be able to get rid of your creatures so they don't get stolen away. Makoku, Center of the Sea. So you can pay 2 and each player draws a card. Not too worried about other players drawing card. This one just has such great card advantage and card effect that it really won't matter that they're drawing cards. You want to gas up early. You usually want to ramp out right away to Damia, and around turn 5 or 5 to 7 you're looking to close out. So you want to get there quick, and sometimes if you just get stuck, this helps you keep going. A couple basic lands, 2 swamps, 3 forests, 3 islands. Okay, so this deck combo is to do everything. There's not any one combo piece finisher. There's no Lab Maniac. There's no Tendrils of Agony. It's kind of like a Storm deck that just does everything in the deck. And that's mainly done with Omniscience, and then you got Recycle and Null Profusion. These are the 3 main reasons why we're playing these colors, playing this deck. So, Omniscience, play anything for free, of course. Recycle, skip your draw step. Whenever you play a card, draw a card. And then during your discard phase, you discard down to 2. So your max hand size becomes 2. Null Profusion is the same thing, but warped to black. So what you're going to do is pretty much play one of these out, and then when Science is there, everything is free. So you play a spell, draw a card, play a spell, draw a card. Eventually, with 2-for-1s and advantage, you're going to just be able to roll through the whole deck. And then with all that's in the deck, you can do anything to anyone. So that's mainly what you're shooting for. There's other ways to win out. You can grind out games, you can go aggro and stuff, but pretty much this is what you're trying to assemble. This will let you do everything in the deck. It's kind of a hard deck to pilot because you got to get to this point, you got to drop it. But when you get these 2, you're going to just take down the whole pod. Once you hit Science pretty much, you want to just win the game, right, that turn. So how you get there, you got to ramp up to 10. So this is our artifact ramp, Overflowing Chalice. I love it. It scales where. Mox Opal. Again, that Metal Craft. Mana Crypt. Soul Ring. Mana Vault. Just 1 Simic Signet. Any of those colors. Blue and green are the important ones to hit early on especially, so I like having that in there. And then some enchantments to help ramp me out. Exploration. I love Exploration. It's really great with Damia. Right off the bat, via Exploration, you can just start dropping all your lands. Damia helps clear your hand out again and again with these kinds of cards. Burgeoning, even better. Turn 1 Burgeoning on a 4-person game, you can get all your lands on the play right away, and you'll be just way ahead. Burgeoning's a great card. Mana Bloom's awesome. It comes back with the cards like Null Profusion and Recycle. Sometimes you can hand out, so you don't want to always be stuck with nothing to do. So Mana Bloom can come back to your hand, you can play it out again and draw another card off of those 2. So that's a nice little trick, and it can just help ramp you early. Deathrite Shaman, this also exiles cards in a graveyard. Again, you got to keep the other combo players in check. You got to hit their yard when it matters. So he's great, early drop. There's so much lands in the yard that his mana is going to make a difference. Skyshroud Ranger, this guy taps and puts a land into play. So, like a slower exploration. Lotus Cobra, a lot of landfall happening in this with all those multiple land hits, and he just ramps you. That's great. Coiling Oracle, get you a card or get you a land into play. There's lots of little small triggers on these creatures, and they don't do a lot on their own, and they kind of just get you to the later game. But then later on, you can cycle these creatures and reuse their enter the battlefield effects again and again and again. So just something like this will let you draw your whole deck. So he seems kind of innocent, but he really is a huge piece of the game. So the Cloud of Fairies comes into play and taps 2 lands. So with all those lands that make more than 1 mana, that's what she's really in there for. So in the early turns, you set those up, and then on turn 3 or 4, you can ramp up to 5, 6, 7 mana. And so you can get her out with Damia. So you kind of want to hold her in your hand until you've got something to back it up with. But Cloud of Fairies is great. It kind of storms. And that's what we're trying to do here. Solemn Simulacrum, he's great. Get your land, get your card. Nail Spellbomb. So this will sack out and just get rid of someone's graveyard. You can also pay the 1 black to draw a card. I like this over a lot of the other graveyard hate just because the black draw a card. Early in the game, sometimes if you get stuck up, you can just get rid of someone's yard, and this will be available for you later, so it's not a big deal. But you gotta watch other players' graveyard. That's the biggest concern with comboing out in Commander. Zuran Orb. So Zuran Orb costs 0. You can sack a land to gain 2 life. This is kind of the only land or life gain I have in the deck. I like it because it's not so conspicuous. You can kind of just have it sit out there. You can storm with it really well when you got one of the Null Profusions or Recycle going. And then just when things are just about to die and you think they got you, you can sack a land or 2 and stay in the game. So I've come back from just being, flatlined with Zuran Orb and come back to win it. It's a nice little slip in. Codex Shredder. I love this card in Commander. It's just one of my favorites. The regrow for 5, you could tap and put a card from your library into your graveyard. You can just mill anyone. So any of the mill tutors, this card just pretty much counters them. You want to keep an eye for other people milling to the top of their library with mystical tutors and vampiric tutors. This card early on just shuts them out, and they won't really realize it until you start doing it to them. But then you're going to mainly target yourself with it. If there's no other targets, so the last end step, hit your own yard. You're going to get the lands in the yard like you want. You're going to get more and more stuff, and the yard's just a resource for you. So later in the game, you can sack it, get whatever you need back. It's an important piece. Nim Deathmantle. Here's another combo piece here. So it costs 2 to play out. Equipped creature gets +2/+2, has Intimidate, and is a zombie. That really doesn't matter. What matters is that you can pay 4 when that creature dies to return to the battlefield and attach Nim Deathmantle to it. So there's creatures in here you can keep bringing back with that high market. You can sack any of those into the battlefield creatures, and you can keep rebuying their effect. And there's even more creatures that will combo out and give you infinite mana, and we'll get to them. Twanos Coffin. This is just little tech gold here. This is one of the best cards you can probably get for Commander, I think. Cost 4, you can pay 3 mana and tap this, and you can put a creature in the coffin, pretty much. It keeps all its enchantments and all its counters. It goes into the box, and then you can choose to untap it during the upkeep, and that creature comes back into play, or you can just leave it tapped and that creature stays there. If you tap it on a commander, they have to choose to go back to command zone or stay in the box. So this is great. It's offensive, it's defensive. You can hide Damia away if she gets targeted, pull her back out. You could rebuy your Into the Battlefield effects. You can take care of commanders, problem permanents, just pay it out and, lock away one creature. It's great. Crucible of Worlds gets all your graveyards, or all your lands in a graveyard you can play from your hand. So, what that does. And then Life of the Loam. These are the 2 big advantage engines. Once you get those cycle lands going late game, Life of the Loam and Crucible are just paramount. You have to get 1 or 2 of them going just to get everything that's in your yard accessible again. It's on the land side. And then here's some of the removal pieces I run. Corrosion Grip, it's just the best way to get rid of an artifact or enchantment. Split second, they can't do anything about it. Maelstrom Pulse, this is a great card because it cleans up tokens too. Token armies, and this deck can make token armies for your opponents, so I like having this card in there just because it can clean all that up. It can just take care of any 1 permanent. Super Vindicate. Damnation wipes out the board. Decree of Pain wipes out the board. You get a draw card for each creature destroyed this way. I don't think I've ever cycled it. You always want to go big, and this deck uses no problem getting to 8 mana. So this is one of those backbreakers. And then a couple counter spells in here, not many. Pact of Negation. When you're dropping at Science, sometimes it's nice to have a way to say no. It's good to have a free counter spell in your hand for those important turns. And then Hinder, great at getting rid of generals or just anything else counterspelled. Don't run too many though. I don't want to get stuck with my stuff in my hand when I'm playing Damia. And then a couple removal / planeswalkers. Lotus Vale. She is awesome. You get her early with her +1 every discards a card. That can just control a board on its own. And then her Edict Sack Out effect, which is the only way to get rid of some creatures. It's the best Edict out here for 3 is going to be Liliana. So she's in there. Garruk's always going to untap lands. His main ways therefore he's going to ramp. He's the best ramp with all those multiple mana lands. He's going to be really effective. And then kind of the game will combo out, but you can close people out by doing the overrun +2/+3 and trample. That's a pretty good way to just say, look, this is what's going to happen next turn. And then there's Jace the Mind Sculptor, best one ever made. Does all stuff. There's Karn Liberated. He's also great at any kind of permanent. You can hit their hand. If you hit him out on an empty board, you're just going to start owning the game. No need to reset the game, just take him out until you're ready to win. A couple tutors in here. Vampiric Tutor. Put your card on top. And Crop Rotation. Crop Rotation, you sack a land, go search your library for a land, and put it into play. And it's again, just find all the little mini pieces you need. If you need to go instant speed, if you need Cabal Coffers to get big mana, if you need a fix, if you want to Thawing Glaciers on turn 1, whatever it's going to be, it's just going to help you smooth out that land. It's going to give you stuff in the graveyard, cards in the graveyard, and just keep storming on. Demonic Tutor, the other tutor. And then Raven's Crime. Raven's Crime is a really important card here, both for recycle and Null Profusion, really. Sometimes you can get stuck with too much land in your hand, and just being able to play 1 black and retrace this spell, you get to keep moving through and cycling more cards. And then this is the only discard other than Liliana I'm really running, and Karn, I guess. But that's enough. Raven's Crime with Life of the Loam and Crucible of Worlds and all the lands and like resources that this deck can generate. Raven's Crime is just going to mean that no one's going to have any hand once you've got your combo assembled pretty much. You're going to be able to make everybody discard everything. You're going to be able to bounce everything, and Raven's Crime is the way you kind of cinch it. Make them just have no hand. It does a lot for 1. Brainstorm draws you some cards, just an early cantrip. Necromancy. This is the only recursion I run. If you're going to run 1 recursion, run the best one. So this is, you can play it at instant speed. It's an enchantment. You sack the creature if you do it instant speed, but I've won games doing it plenty of times. You can pick any graveyard, pull any creature back, so it's just value. And then Equilibrium, another combo piece. So you kind of see all the little creatures that are getting assembled and all the little combo pieces, and it's just enter the battlefield, triggers, 2-for-1s, and value, value, value. So Equilibrium, when a creature comes into play, you can pay 1 and unsummon another creature, put it back in its owner's hand. So you can use this to great effect, getting rid of problems that your opponents are playing out, and just play a kind of control style and bounce their big guys while you set up. Or you can play this on your own guys. Bounce your little guy, bounce your Coiling Oracle, bring back your Cloud of Fairies. Cloud of Fairies can combo with this card if you've got Lotus Vale and Deserted Temple and another little creature. You can get infinite mana really easily with Equilibrium, and then infinite whatever little creature triggers you got. So this card is important. Capsize. This is kind of the win con in a lot of ways. It's got the return of permanent and buy it back, so once you get the infinite mana, Capsize is the way you're going to take care of everything on the board. And that's usually just going to force the scoop right there, but you can play it out to completion here. G-Wave, it's great to just go up. When you got about, enough to go G-Wave for 10, that's what you're looking for, because you want to go right into science and hit it. But early on, G-Waves for 5 or so, you get a bunch of lands into play, just really boom up your board early, and then later you can grab it again with like a Codex Shredder or something, and G-Wave again for 30, 50. Just get the whole deck out there, and pretty much once you do that, G-Wave for 30, you're just going to win right there. Time Warp. Target player takes extra turn. So these are annoying, of course, but it's important to have it in there because that's the way you're just going to also enable your win. If you got something like Eternal Witness, Equilibrium, and Time Warp, you can just loop that and take infinite turns. There's all these different ways you can loop these creature effects and loop Time Warp. Just having 1 Time Warp in the deck is all you need, and you'll be able to take infinite turns. And then Time Spiral also gets rid of yards, which is important. Reloads your hand. Great all-around card. Untaps your lands, just keeps you going. Praetor's Council. So once you get that big fat yard later in the game, you've been milling yourself and put all these graveyard lands in there and all this stuff. Praetor's Council is going to put a huge stack of cards back in your hand, and that's going to pretty much be the backbreaker. That and Omniscience, once you play this with it, that's usually when people start scooping up. And then Copy Artifact, a couple clone effects in here. This is a great, cheap, awesome Copy Artifact. Helps you ramp out early, explodes. You can copy Metamorph and copy any creature. Metamorph, also one of the best clones they've ever made. Copy an artifact or creature. You can play its friction cost, of course. Phantasmal Image, the other clone I'm running, just for 2 to be able to copy somebody. It's not as good when they got rid of the legend rule, and you can't just terror away a general with this, but it's still pretty good. Trinket Mage, go get you those great little artifacts, get you little ramps, all those good things. Just an awesome 2-for-1. Dominating Lucid, this is kind of one of my rotating slots. I put all types of things in. This is what it is right now. Dominating Lucid is a little 1/1 creature. You can pay 3. It becomes a creature enchantment, and you gain control of that creature. So it's a good way of just having a little threat out there that's going to keep people either hold back, or you're just going to be able to take over whatever's the best thing on the board for cheap. So nice little weird card. Eternal Witness. So she's super important. There's other ways you can loop your stuff, but she's the best way. Just because it's a creature, it makes it so much easier. Once you get the big mana, you can do any of the loops that we have. We'll get her back again and again, and then you're just doing Time Warp, you're doing G-Waves, you're doing whatever you need to do again and again to win. Forgotten Ancients. He's kind of a really understated win con. If the other combos fail, Forgotten Ancient's kind of the way you go. He's just a beat stick on his own in a multiplayer game. Whenever a player casts a spell, you can put a 1/1 counter on him, and then at the beginning of your upkeep, you can move counters from him to other creatures. So This is the only way Damia's ever going to get big enough to kill somebody, is usually Forgotten Ancient dumps a pile of counters on her, then she's actually crushingly big. But with little loops like just Cloud of Fairies and something else, you can keep bouncing stuff back to your hand and playing it out for free and like not even doing anything, but just playing a spell each turn. Makes Forgotten Ancient trigger, and then you got, you know, thousands of counters on all our creatures. That's enough to kill him. So he's really a win con when you get down to it. Consecrated Sphinx, another great way to draw way too many cards. It's always a problem when somebody else clones it, and then you got that standoff. Horrible to play against, but it's just so powerful you can't not run it in a deck like this. It's begging for all that cards. And then Palinchron. So Palinchron, High Market, and what's that called? Nim Deathmantle. That's the main kind of easy combo. Palinchron just keeps coming back with High Market, sacks it, and you Deathmantle for 4, and you untap 7. So you get 2 extra mana. I mean, plus if your land's making more than 1, you can make a lot of mana with him. Again, you can find ways when your mana is the multiple lands, you can just keep bouncing him back to your hand and playing him out with Forgotten Ancient, things like that. Or with Null Profusion or Recycle, you can just keep playing him. Even if you're not making mana, you can just keep drawing cards until you find a way to get all the way there. So Palinchron's an important piece to this. And Vorinclex. Vorinclex makes Palinchron go infinite mana, just the 2 of them. So Vorinclex is also the only Praetor I'm running. He's great. He's going to lock up your opponent's land and then let you tap for a double. He's kind of like the setup play. I usually run him out there and it's going to cause my opponents to tap out and either deal with him or try to do something. And then my next turn I'm going to try to go off his Science or something. So Vorinclex is good at blowing it up and locking him down. And then lastly, Terastodon. He's a big beat stick. He's a win con and he's a blowout all in one card. You can destroy all their stuff, copy it, clone it, Phantasmal Image it, and then you can Maelstrom Pulse and clean up all the elephant tokens. And then you can do the same thing on your side. When you're storming out, pretty much what you're going to do is try to bounce all their stuff, make them discard their hands, and then as a way to win, you drop Terastodon, you copy them 3, 4, 5, 6 times, blow up a bunch of your lands and stuff, and then you got an Elephant Army, you got Garruk loaded with Overrun, and then you Time Warp. And that's kind of the way it combos and wins. There's no other pieces that it really needs. All it has is just answers and gas. Thanks for watching CMDR Decks. Please subscribe and favorite.